Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Turning Readers into Writers with me, your host, Emma Dhesi, who is now officially a best-selling author thanks to the wonderful book Launchpad, The Countdown to Writing Your Novel. That hit the shops last week, as you know, and it's been a big hit, and we've had a wonderful response to it, and it was such a thrill and a delight when it hit number one on the US Amazon store, which is no mean feat, I don't mind telling you. So very exciting, absolutely thrilled about it. And when I was thinking about my journey from when I first started writing and all the fears and all the doubts I had about my abilities, could I put a sentence together? Could I finish a project? Could I learn how to reach out to others to help me promote a project? All of the things that go into putting a book together, not just the words on the page, but everything that goes around it. When I think back to when I first started and how little I knew, even about storytelling, it really does amaze me how far I've come. And I can honestly say this with no bragging, but I'm really, really proud of myself for what I've done, for sticking with it, for persevering. And even when things go wrong, I, rather than give up, I find a way to try not to let it happen again, to try and learn from it, whether it be a technical error, whether it be something I've explained in an incorrect way or a way that doesn't resonate with people. I'm always looking for how I can make myself better at what I do, because I love what I do and I don't want to stop. And I do love helping writers, because I remember being at those early stages. I remember feeling just so insignificant in the landscape of novel writing and indie publishing, and it just felt like this minefield, that how there was so much out there, how could I ever learn it? But it took time, and I did get there, and it's been slow and steady. And one of the ways that one of my big breakthroughs, I have to say, was learning about the inner critic. To me, this feels a bit like an overused phrase, but maybe you've not heard it before. But really, the inner critic is that little voice inside your head that, if left unchecked, it really grows and it gets louder and louder. And it's that voice that can stop you from doing the things that you want to do. Some of you will recognize that voice when you look in the mirror and you look at your body, and it's not the body you hoped that you would have when you became a woman, or an adult male. It's not who you thought you would be. And so there's a little voice that pipes up and says, you're too fat, you're too short, you're too tall, your legs are too long, your legs are too short, your arms are too fat, your boobs are too big, whatever it might be. There's always something, isn't there? And very few of us look in the mirror and are entirely happy. It might be when you start a new relationship, and you're really worried about everything that you say and super conscious of making a good impression, and there's a little voice inside that's saying, oh no, they're never going to stay with you, they're never going to stay with you. So you'll recognize it in lots of different ways. Or maybe you're going to go and ask for a pay rise from your employer, from your boss, and the back of your head, that voice is saying, don't be daft, why would they give you a pay rise? There's somebody else who's much better than you. So those things, those little comments, and they're horrible comments. They're things that you would never say to anybody else, but your inner critic feels that it has free rein to say these things to you. So like many, I thought these were just in my head. This was something that I thought, and that I was particularly mean to myself. So I cannot tell you what a relief it was to discover that there's a term for this, the inner critic, that lots of people experience it, and it's a perfectly natural and normal part of being a human being. It's not the part that we necessarily like, and whilst we kind of may understand that this is a survival mechanism that we've got, it's something that we've developed to help us stay alive, to be fearful of new things, to restrain ourselves as a species so that we don't jump out in front of a saber-toothed tiger and say hi when that tiger wants to eat us, or it's the part of ourselves that says, listen, you ate those berries last time and it made you really ill, don't do it again. So there's a very real and useful role that our inner critic plays in our life. But equally, in this modern world where there are no saber-toothed tigers, where we're very unlikely to be killed by a berry, we're not living in that primal time anymore, that we kind of don't need the same level of criticism in our heads. We're generally fairly sensible these days, and we know the difference between right and wrong and what's good for us and what's not. But as with so many things in this modern world we live in, our biology, our genetics, our humanity is still to catch up, because we've moved so far. So I thought, because this is a subject that's really close to my heart and one that has really made a difference in my life, I wanted to share it. And it's the idea that you are not alone with your inner critic. And there's a name that you can give them, that I give mine, which is the nerds. Nerds. Meet the nerds. So these are the personification of the criticisms I levy at myself. So, you know, whilst one of my nerds might criticize my weight and my cellulite, another will point out the oh too many laughter lines or the grey hair that I've got coming through. That would be another nerd. Or there's another nerd that reminds me of how bad I am with money. And so, hey, I might as well spend it while I've got it, because, you know, it's that's what it's there for. So we have lots of nerds that go around in our heads. Kind of latterly within my life, the nerds around parenting were massive, really, really big. So many critical voices saying to me, you are awful at this, you are not doing a good job, how your children are going to hate you when they grow up. All of these nerds very strong in my head for a period of time. And I'm sure there are areas for you that your voice your inner nerd pipes up louder than other times. And for some of you, that will be with your writing. And it might be that those nerds are so strong, you've let them get so big and loud in your head that it's really, really difficult to see beyond them, or clear the noise out of your head. And that's what is stopping you from writing. Because as long as those nerds have the upper hand, as long as they are loud and vocal, that they've got that megaphone, then the longer it's going to be for you to write anything that you want to write. So I'm sure immediately you can think of things that come up for you when you think about your nerds and writing. So it'll be, your story's not good enough. Your spelling's not good enough. How on earth do you think that you can write a book? Some of you I know are telling yourselves, or your nerds are telling you, that you're too old. You've left it too late. You should have done this 30 years ago. What's the point in trying now? Some of your nerds will be laughing at you saying, but you're too lazy. How on earth do you think that you can do this? You've never committed to anything. You'll never do it. You're far too lazy. Another nerd will be saying, you don't have enough ambition. Look at all those 6-figure authors out there. They've got ambition. They're the ones that are doing it. They're writing 10 hours a day. They've got ambition. You haven't. You don't have the talent for this. There will be another nerd of mine, actually, and you may share this one too, is that your nerd is saying, but you're not a finisher. You never finish anything. Why on earth do you think that you could finish a whole novel? That's crazy talk. And because that voice is so loud, you're like, yeah, nerd, you're right. You're absolutely right. I am too lazy. I am too old. I do never finish anything. I'm talentless. I'm a hack. Who am I thinking? Nobody in my family's ever done this. What on earth makes me think that I can? I don't have a college degree. Who on earth do I think I am? I never finished school even. Oh my goodness, there's no way that I can do. So we all have this. This inner critic comes in lots and lots and lots of times in a day. And we do just need to be aware of them. This is one of the ways that I think that we can start to move past those nerds. So one of the things I want to suggest to you as getting through this and dealing with your nerds is to make friends with them, which might feel counterintuitive. But your nerd is just that voice in your head. It's a part of yourself that really wants to keep you safe and wants to be heard. Your nerds want you to listen to them because they genuinely believe they are doing you a favor. They genuinely believe that they're doing the right thing by you and you should listen to them. So I want you to kind of personify them, give them a personality, turn them into a character who is kind of shadowing you through your life. And they're making special appearances when you least want them to. So, you'd want your nerd to show up when you're maybe crossing the road, a busy road, and that's when you want your nerd to show up to make sure that you stay alive. You don't want your nerd to show up when you're trying to do something creative. And that whilst you're challenging yourself and you're doing something difficult, you're not doing anything dangerous. When you sit down to your desk to write a book, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to endanger your life any. It's just going to be challenging. But the thing is that nerd, just like you and me, that nerd wants to be seen, wants to be listened to, wants to be acknowledged, which is all any of us want. So what I suggest you do is that next time that nerd speaks up, next time you hear that little voice in your head saying, don't do it, don't risk it, you won't succeed, you know that you're a failure, you know that this isn't meant for you. What I want you to do is kind of say to it, yeah, you know what, I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for looking out for me. Thank you for trying to protect me by giving me some guidelines to go by and looking out for me. But I'm going to do it anyway. So what I want from you, nerd, is to say, what you want to tell your nerd is, listen, just sit here, sit on my desk or sit under the desk or sit at the back of the office, wherever it is, and you sit there and keep an eye out for things. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to sit down with a pen and paper or with my laptop and I'm going to start writing. So nerd, I do need you to be there. I do need you to look after me and try and keep me safe. But whilst you're doing that, while you're looking out for all those dangers, I'm going to continue writing my story. And later we'll have another chat about it and we'll see where we sit. If the nerd continues to shout out loud, just keep repeating, just keep telling it, I hear you, nerd, and I thank you, but I'm going to write this scene. I'm going to write this bit of dialogue and then we can discuss it later. It's like a toddler, a toddler who's having a tantrum and they can't hear what you're saying. They can't rationalize what you're saying because they're so wound up. So you just have to be calm. You have to repeat it again and again until eventually the nerd or the child starts to feel heard, starts to feel that, okay, you're acknowledging them, you're listening to what they're saying and you're responding to what they're saying. And then the toddler or the nerd's emotions start to calm down. Their heightened response starts to soothe and the cortisol, I think it is, leaves the body. We can start to breathe again. This has been so simple and so powerful for me in my life. And I really wanted to share it with you because it could be really powerful for you too. Because as soon as I acknowledge that my nerd has spoken and it's not being ignored, its temper dies down. And while I know it's still worried, it's also pacified enough to let me write. One of my teachers, one of my mentors, she went one step further and she told us that she sees her nerd as this banana that sits on her shoulder. Which just made me laugh. So she sees this banana who's sitting on her shoulder and she can talk to this banana when she needs to, and then she feeds it from time to time to keep it quiet. I don't actually know what she feeds it. I should have asked that question. But as a way of just soothing that nerd, soothing that banana, she has it on her shoulder so it stays close, it stays safe, and then she feeds it to keep it occupied, to keep it busy, and shut it up, basically. So I wonder if that resonates with you. I wonder if you can kind of feel how that could work in your life, that that's something you could do to just pacify that voice, that chimp voice, that nerd voice in the back of your head that you know is trying to keep you safe. You know it's doing it with the best of intentions, but in this modern world, it's just not helpful right now. It is not helpful. Because if you try and ignore that inner critic, if you try and pretend it's not there and just try and kind of beat it into submission, then let's be honest, the stronger it's going to be. Think of that toddler. The more you ignore a toddler's tantrum, the louder it gets, the stronger it gets, the more demanding that child gets until it's absolutely uncontrollable. Because if you've let your nerd or that inner critic get to the stage where it's shouting you down, whenever you try and do anything new, whenever you're doing something that's pushing you out of the familiar, out of your comfort zone, then the longer the process is going to be to make that nerd, to make that inner critic feel appreciated. So don't give up. If it gets loud, if it's not listening to you the first time, just keep going. Keep talking to your nerds. Personify them in any which way that you want. Just like my teacher did with her banana, or not. But find a way of speaking to that nerd, to that inner voice, in a way that they will find charming, actually, that your nerd will find charming, will find maybe humorous, and certainly will find calming and soothing. But just keep going. Don't give up with it, because it's the only way you can get that toddler to calm down, that voice to calm down, is just by being there, being soothing, being calm, sticking with it, letting them ride it out, so that when they're calm, you can say thank you, have a little seat here, take a rest, and I'm going to write my scene now. So I hope that's of use to you. I hope that's going to help you see the inner critic in your head, the nasty little voices in your head, in a new way. Just, they are your nerd with a capital N. Everybody has got them. Each nerd has its own unique voice, so whilst you and I both have nerds, ours show up a little bit differently depending on the stage of life that we're at, depending on the new challenge that we've set ourselves and what it is that we're hoping to achieve. They're all going to come up with their own little ways of hurting you, because of course they know you better than anybody, don't they? They know you. They know which buttons to press. They know what's really going to get to the heart of you and just make you feel dreadful and make you feel like you're going to give up. But now that you know, now that you're equipped to deal with your nerds and your inner critics, you're going to say thank you. I hear you. I acknowledge you. Please sit down beside me while I write this scene, and we will talk about it later. All right, just before I head off, of course, I do want to give a last shout out for the book Launchpad, The Countdown to Writing Your Book. You can find out more about it at emmadhesi.com/launchpad. Alternatively, just head to your local bookstore and you will be able to find it in print and in ebook. But until next time, take care.